Hello, my name is David Randall, Executive Director of the Civics Alliance convened by the National Association of Scholars, and I am here to talk about American Birthright, the Civics Alliance's Model K-12 Social Studies Standards. We've prepared these social studies standards for both states and school districts, and I'm here particularly today to talk to school board members, heads of school districts, to talk about the advantages of American Birthright for school districts wanting to improve their social studies education. Now, an important thing to say here is that American Birthright is very fact-centered. We have an awful lot of particular things to study. And this actually works well in complement with state standards that specify skills to a fair degree of detail, but don't go so much into the actual factual details. So American Birthright is wonderful, we think, for working with state standards. Now, what is American Birthright? American Birthright is a standard which focuses on helping social studies teachers teach their students to identify the ideals and institutions and individual examples of human liberty, individualism, religious freedom, and Republican self-government. Also, to assess the extent to which different civilizations have fulfilled these ideals, and to describe how the evolution of these ideals in different times and places has contributed to the formation of modern American ideals. We do this by providing a series of social studies standards, K through 12, as an integrated whole from kindergarten through 12th grade. This is built upon the 2003 Massachusetts History and Curriculum Framework. It also draws from sources such as Florida's Next Generation Sunshine State Standards for Social Studies, and we revised it ourselves. It's meant to appeal to a broad spectrum of Americans, to be politically diverse, bipartisan, consensual in the history it presents. That's the overall aim. Now, how do we go about this? Flexibility. The Civics Alliance designed American Birthright so that states and school districts can alter the sequence as they see fit. They can abbreviate some topics. They can expand others. They can adjust the course sequences. For example, we have economics put into the 7th grade, but we actually provided enough material and rigor that economics could be shifted to the high school level. We have our sequence culminate in civics in the 12th grade. Civics can be put into the 9th grade, and American history or world history or Western civilization history could be put into the 12th grade. We expect that the states and the school districts will adjust our model standards to be age appropriate in their learning standards and to fit their own teachers and their own students. We want teacher freedom. We're not providing an entire curriculum. Teachers are and should be free to teach any topic as they see fit, to add new topics, to incorporate independent lesson plans and sequences, and to unite items from these learning standards into thematic units. And teachers should be free to reorganize these sequences in which they teach these topics. And also they should be reviewing material from earlier years. We focus so strongly on facts and have relatively little on skills precisely because we believe these are things appropriate for teachers to determine themselves. We have what we pride ourselves on, a very clear format. We have tried to emphasize clarity far more than we think virtually any state social studies standards. We don't have this tangle of skills and crosswalks. We don't have to have a section in the introduction that tells you how to read our standard because it's so clear you don't need that section in the beginning. We have each standard written in bullet points and containing only 4 social studies disciplines: civics, history, geography, economics. We also didn't include electives, and we provided only one K-12 sequence of courses. Again, we expect this to be adjusted, but we believe that American Birthright's straightforward structure makes it easy for teachers to use, and this is just as important, easy for parents to hold teachers accountable for how well they teach social studies. We also think that our clarity will also make it easy for the states and the school districts to adjust American Birthright to fit their own desires. American Birthright's format and its intensive content standards are also meant to facilitate reliable assessment. And that's whether by national companies, such as the Educational Testing Service, state-level testing, or tests by school districts and individual teachers. We provide enough material, enough in our content standards to make it easy for teachers and for large organizations such as the ETS to create tests that accurately assess student knowledge. That's an awful lot of the framework. Now, our content, we think, also is quite good. We've incorporated a strong patriotic emphasis in the K-6 standards. We drew a large amount of that from Florida's Next Generation Sunshine State standards. And we firmly believe that there's a standard approach in the K-6 structure of social studies that goes from community to state to nation late if ever. And we don't think that's the proper way to do it. It's possible to teach the civic symbols, our flag, the stories of Americans, the most important heroes, George Washington, Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, Susan B. Anthony, and you can do that from the very beginning. So we make sure to have this patriotic national emphasis right from the beginning. Above all, we make sure to have it kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. We make sure to have an economics sequence. That an entire year actually is devoted to economics the way we've set it up. It's terribly important that students learn free market, that they learn the economics, that it not just get distributed it in other courses, that it be taught as a coherent whole. And it doesn't have to be an entire year. It can be a semester. It can be integrated with personal financial literacy, but you really need to have focused economics instruction. And so we provide that. And again, we're happily following some very good models, in this case, Indiana's economic standards from the year 2000. In addition to economics, a very important change we make in the standard structure is that we have a 2-year Western civilization sequence in grades 8 and 9. And it's terribly important that students learn Western civilization as a coherent narrative. That narrative is the ideals and institutions of liberty that our founding fathers knew when they created our republic, that Frederick Douglass read as he expanded the American tradition of liberty, that all of Americans until very recently have known and read as the core of American liberty and the core knowledge they need to act as self-governing citizens of the Republic. So we have restored a Western civilization sequence that's full and coherent and gives students enough time to learn all the history of liberty from ancient Greece to early modern England. That is the vital background to American liberty. Now, we have done this without abandoning world history, which is absolutely important, vital for students to learn. We actually think the way current world history is done, it's unfortunately so general and so vague, partly because it's trying to do Western civilization and everything else, that students aren't getting a good world history either. So we provide what we think is a far more rigorous world history sequence, which gives students the histories of Asia, of Africa, of Latin America, and then integrates this with the successive world systems that were built, the Muslim world, the Mongol world, the European world that was created between Columbus and the 20th century. So we have world history as well, and we like to think done even more thoroughly than the current world history model. Now, we culminate with American history and American civics in the 11th and 12th grade. And again, we try to have a very thorough grounding in American history and American civics, because both of these are what students need to know what to love about our country, to learn all that we have done that's good and all that we have learned that is us learning to make ourselves even more dedicated to liberty. So we learn about the glorious science that we have created, the telegraph, Luther Burbank's botany, George Washington Carver's love of the peanut culture. We learn about Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King. We learn about the entrepreneurs and the working men who made American industry. And we learn about the American dreams that got Neil Armstrong to the moon. All this we learn in American history and in American civics, how our government works, and even more importantly, what are the ideals of liberty our government is meant to preserve. That the division of powers, federalism, the Bill of Rights, all of this is not to govern people, but to preserve liberty. And that's a very important lesson to have in a civics instruction. All of this we key to a very intensive series of primary sources. Now that includes stories that can be read in kindergarten through 6th grade, history appropriate for 1st graders and 2nd graders about our Constitution, about the American heroes that have made America. We also have a series of primary sources for history instruction from grades 8 through 12, history, social studies, civics. And we not only list the primary sources integrated with those 5 grades of instruction, we also have a primary source appendix at the end of American Birthright that lists where you can read every primary source we mention, both online and in print. And we're doing that to make it easy for American Birthrights to be adopted by teachers and used as they see fit in the classroom. So we're not just listing primary sources and leaving it to the teachers to find them themselves. We've made sure that we have links for everything available to make it that much easier to adopt American Birthright. The last thing I want to say about American Birthright in particular is it serves equal opportunity. And this is terribly important. Too many people who have been misdoing education have this thought that lowering standards and lowering rigor is somehow more equitable. And this is just the reverse of the truth. There's an enormous amount of literature in education studies that tells us that when you don't include rigorous content in K-12 education, it is disadvantaged students who suffer most. Students with more resources learn the material anyway from their family and their friends. Disadvantaged students can't get it except from the schools. So when you lower rigor, when you lower content standards, you're creating a more unequal society. And we very strongly believe that American Birthright's intensive content standards fulfill America's promise of equal educational opportunities for everyone, the democratic promise of America. That's why we think American Birthright is good. And I'd love to talk to more people about it. And if you're interested, please get in touch with me and David Randall, Randall at nas.org, Randall at nas.org, where then I work for the National Association of Scholars and the Civics Alliance. So I very much hope you'll adopt American Birthright, and you can find it at civicsalliance.org. Right under one of the very first tabs gets you to American Birthright. So it's easily accessible. You can look at it. You can read it for yourself. You can make your own judgment. We strongly urge every school district to adopt this. We think it would be good for every school district, but we present it to you for you to make your choice. Thank you very much.